Yo, just me and you for this video, Mr. White?
That's right, Jesse, just like the good old days.
Yeah, good. So, anyway, what are we cooking up?
Well, I know we've both finished playing Echoes of Wisdom, and I've wrote down some notes for a bit of a review. I figured it'd be good to get my loyal partner in on it with me.
Oh, sick, yo. Great fucking game.
All right, great. Just to get one thing straight, though, Jesse, this is more so my review. You're just there for co-commentary, okay? So try not to derail.
Oh, so yet again, I'm just second fucking fiddle to the great Heisenberg.
Oh, stop fucking whining for once in your life, Jesse. It's just a fucking video game review. So let's just get on with it. Then we can get back to cooking our proper product.
All right, whatever, bitch.
So here we are, a new Legend of Zelda game. This time actually starring Zelda, Echoes of Wisdom.
Haha, yo, with this game being Zelda Rescuing Link, they totally should have called
Jesse,
it...
I swear to God, if you're about to say, duh, should have called it Legend of Link, I will melt you in a fucking barrel. That shit wasn't funny from the first 10 billion people.
All right. Jesus fucking Christ, Mr. White.
So anyway, I recently finished playing it, and I have a lot of thoughts on it. Overall, I liked it. I had my issues with it, and I did come away with mixed feelings, but overall, it's pretty good.
Yo, pretty good? Mixed feelings?
Yep.
Mr. White, it was fucking bitchin'. It was a masterpiece. For sure, the best 2D Zelda yet.
Well, first off, Link Between Worlds would like a word with you. Secondly, the word masterpiece means nothing anymore, where gaming is concerned, Jesse. Any game that's half decent gets showered with the word, especially while it's still fresh.
Mr. White.
Look, let's actually start the review before you start arguing with me, huh? Just keep your mouth fucking shut for a little bit.
Oh, well, Heil Hitler, bitch. All right then, asshole, let's hear it.
Okay, so I'm gonna take inspiration from the atom here and split this review into positively charged and negatively charged. Of course, the real chemistry with Echoes of Wisdom happens with the Echoes system. But first, I just want to warm up, set up the lab, if you will, with some quicker positives and negatives about the game. So, positives. Let me start with the main one. I love that this is a totally fresh approach to top-down Zelda. It may not have worked entirely for me this time, but I will forever admire the Zelda team's dedication to keeping the series fresh with creative, innovative ideas. Much like me, they're masters in their field.
Much like us, you mean, Mr. White? But yeah, Church, mad. Respect to Nintendo. They're making the blue meth of video games right now. And the Zelda team are a top fucking dealer. Not that we know anything about that stuff.
Anyway, next positive. As part of that innovation, we finally get to play as Zelda. And she's not just a Link reskin either. She's not a fighter like Link. She's a thinker, a mage, a strategist. And that translates into the gameplay.
Fuck yeah, Zelda bitch. This is long overdue, man. I'm not suggesting anything new here, but a game where we can switch between Link and Zelda would be fucking peak.
Absolutely. As a duo, they'd give us a run for our money. So my next point is the art style. It returns from the Link's Awakening remake, of course, but it still looks very nice.
Yeah, it's like the quaint little sprite world of an NES or Game Boy game brought to life. It's fucking adorable, yo.
Agreed, but I do want to get some minor criticisms off my chest.
Oh, of course you do.
Listen, I like it overall. That's why I listed it as a positive. I just think this is such a different and new kind of Zelda game that a new art style would have been better. And I just hope that not every top-down Zelda will have this cutesy little toy art style going forward. I mean, think, Jesse, this is our first game as Zelda. Imagine what that could have been like if the art style and the world allowed for more characterization and expression.
Fair enough, yo. Let's see what the next top-down Zelda looks like. Then maybe I'll agree a little more.
Okay, that's some quick positives. Now let's gain another electron and get negatively charged real quick. Little chemistry joke there. If you were a chemistry teacher, your sides would be splitting right now. Anyway, some quick negatives, then we'll really sink our teeth into the gameplay. First off, the music.
Wait, what? The hell is wrong with the music, yo? It had a nice, soft personality to it that fit the game world perfectly. I mean, that main overworld theme is great.
Yeah, I like that tune a lot, but it's the only one I can even fucking remember. The soundtrack isn't bad by any means, it works, but it's just so mid and forgettable. I mean, can you hum me fucking any tune from the game besides that main melody? For a series like Zelda that has such a pedigree for phenomenal music, having a soundtrack that's just passable is such a disappointment.
All right, so you didn't like the music. Fair enough. It's your review. But the rest of the game was awesome and super memorable, right?
Well, its dungeons certainly weren't.
Oh, come on, bitch.
Look, in terms of design, they were okay, but aesthetically, they were the most bland dungeons I've ever fucking seen in top-down Zelda. Maybe in all of Zelda. They were the most standard, most plain, obligatory fire dungeon, obligatory water dungeon, and obligatory forest, desert, and ice dungeon type of shit ever. Absolutely nothing unique about them.
All right, you know what? I'll give you that one, Mr. White. I liked playing the dungeons, but yeah, they were pretty lazy in terms of art direction and narrative. Obligatory is probably the best word for them, as much as I fucking hate admitting you're right.
I just don't know why Zelda can't seem to think of anything beyond elemental-themed dungeons anymore. Sure, there have always been fire dungeons and desert dungeons and all the rest, but at least they had their own personalities. How unique and memorable is the mind-bending stone tower? The dark torture and execution-themed Shadow Temple, the serene and almost Buddhist ancient cistern. Look, if the next Zelda refuses to think of more interesting dungeons and just has yet more obligatory elemental ones, I swear to God I will be the one who knocks, and it'll be at the Zelda team's door.
Anyway, Mr. White, if that's all your quick points, we should really get into the meat of the gameplay.
Actually, I have a couple more, Jesse, but I'll try to make them quicker than your relationships.
Fuck off, man. I'd rather be alone that with fucking Skylar.
Yeah, fair point. But yeah, my next negative, I'm fucking sick of Hyrule. Despite its innovations, a lot of this game felt very repetitive and formulaic to me, and I think a large part of that was the world. How many more times are we going to visit Death Mountain, Zora's Domain, Hyrule Castle, the Lost Woods? The last mainline Zelda game that wasn't set in Hyrule, excluding Link's Awakening since that was a remake, was Wind Waker. And that's only because it was flooded. You were still technically there.
I mean, it probably doesn't help that the last two mainline Zeldas both had literally the same exact version of Hyrule. But yeah, I get where you're coming from. I don't really think that's a flaw of Echoes of Wisdom, though. You're just sick of the same setting in a series.
Maybe so, and maybe it is, just that Breath and Tears have burnt me out on the place. But either way, this is the game that's made me realize I'm kinda done with Hyrule as a setting. Not permanently, of course, but I really hope the next game gives us a break from it. We just keep visiting different variations of the same places and meeting different variations of the same characters. It's getting as tiring as a conversation with Walt Jr., and it's this kind of repetitive formula that drove me to our current line of work. But anyway, one last quick negative, and then we'll focus on the ecosystem. The story.
Dude, you're shitting on the story now, too. You can't keep getting away with this.
Jesse, besides the fact that Zelda is the hero, it had the same issue as the dungeons in Hyrule. There were some cute little subplots along the way, I suppose, but even those were just so basic and predictable. The overall plot was the most formulaic, bland Zelda plot. Mysterious dark force invades Hyrule. There's a dark world involved. There's a fairy companion you meet who helps you along. You beat dungeons to collect MacGuffins. You meet the same races you always do along the way. Oh, shock horror, the villain we pursued in the first half wasn't the real villain. There's just nothing to it, Jesse. I feel like they just focused all their attention on this experimental new Echoes mechanic, and the rest of the game was just standard box ticking for what you'd see in a Zelda.
All right, fine. You got your bitching out of the way. Now let's move back into the positive zone and focus on the ecosystem already.
Yes, let's. So then, positives of the ecosystem. First off, I love how much it just opens up the game world. I feel like this game has such a good balance of openness and structure. I hope they can keep this balance going in future games.
Yo, right. Just climbing up these big cliff walls that would just be a barrier between areas in previous games, or running along treetops as if you're out of bounds. Awesome.
It's not just navigation and the world that's opened up, of course, it's the puzzles. With so many echoes, no puzzle has just one solution. You can really be as creative as you want to in solving puzzles. And although I thought the dungeons were more bland than Mike's fucking voice, I can't deny how fun it was just breezing through them using echoes. I even felt sometimes as though I was outsmarting the game somehow, getting around it, yet in an intended way that still felt legit.
Yeah, well, we all know how much you like to feel fucking smarter than people, so no wonder you like that part.
Of course, something else major that echoes play into is combat. It's a really fun novelty at first, spawning all these monsters and watching them go at it with each other. You can just send in these goons to do your dirty work, sit back and watch the show, then swoop in afterwards to collect the spoils.
Yo, that reminds me of a certain lawyer we both know.
And finally, I love that there's a huge variety of echoes, with a huge variety of uses. Depending on what you spawn, you can fight, move around, call your horse, distract enemies, hide. They really experimented with this mechanic a lot. However, I did have my problems with the echoes system too. Let's get the most infamous one out of the way, the fucking atrocious UI.
Look, in fairness, Mr. White, you can organize the list by your last used. That helps a bit.
Jesse, please don't make excuses for this sloppy fucking UI. It's a mechanic you have to use all the time throughout the game. Yes, you can organize it by last used, but then when you need something you haven't used in a while, it's back to scrolling all the way to the fucking end. Why the fuck did they do this in Tears of the Kingdom, then do it like 5 times worse in Echoes of Wisdom? It's a problem that gets worse and worse too as the game goes on and you get more and more echoes to scroll through. It actually discouraged me from experimenting with echoes. It's like the game wants you to play around with them, but it gives you more and more echoes that just makes doing so a bigger pain in the neck than a fucking box cutter. So I ended up just using the same few echoes that I knew worked as much as I could because it was so tedious navigating through the menu every 20 fucking seconds. And talking about using the same few echoes, this brings me to my next point. Having so many echoes is a great concept, but in practice I found that most of them were fucking useless by the time I was halfway through the game. For navigation, all I needed most of the time were water blocks to go upward, flying tiles to go horizontal, and beds to stack diagonally. Once I figured that out, the wooden boxes, vases, trees, rocks, extra beds, and even trampolines that helped me out a lot early game. So many items just became useless fucking UI clutter that made the mechanic more annoying to use. This affected combat too. Once I had my handful of overpowered higher level enemies, the rest of the monsters just became more fucking boxes to scroll past in the UI.
Oh, that's just fucking like you, bitch. You only give a shit if something's useful to you. Otherwise, forget about it. Ain't no monster in this game as awful as you, Mr. White.
Oh, calm down, Jesse. It's just a fucking video game review. Hardly the time for your tired moral objections. They're getting old. Which brings me to my next point. The combat getting stale. For that reason, I've just touched on, and others. The monster fighting is a novelty at first, but it soon gets pretty old just waiting for enemies to do the work, especially when you're fighting a stronger monster than yours that's as persistent as Gus Fring and just takes ages to fuck off. I mean, fuck me, I could spawn like 5 flying monsters and they always seem to take a fucking hour to kill just one flying enemy.
Yo, come on, Mr. White. That's where sword fighter mode comes in. If there's a pesky enemy, you can just use Link's sword or arrow on them.
Except that has limited energy, which is hard to come by when you're not in the still world, and it looks kind of familiar too, by the way. Including the old combat system as a special move in the first place just feels to me like they weren't 100% confident in the new combat. If you've moved away from Link's moveset for a game, just own it. It feels like it is literally just there for when we're fucking sick of using echoes and just want to do shit on our own. So, yeah, overall, Echoes of Wisdom is a pretty good game with a fun, creative mechanic at its heart. For me, though, that mechanic did get old, and I feel like the focus on it was at the expense of the world. The music, dungeons, main plot, and World of Hyrule were all very by the numbers. My main problem, though, is that as fun a novelty as the Echoes were for a while, they got stale for me. The horrendous menu that you need to be interacting with all the time throughout the whole game just gets worse as the game goes on, to the point where it even discouraged me from experimenting. By the time I was halfway through the game, I already had very overpowered echoes for fighting and for getting around, so why would I bother with the tedium of scrolling through all my useless ones? It started out as a fun playground of ideas, but later it just felt like a tool that I had to interact with for every little thing. It got tiring.
Yo, you want to talk about tiring? Try working with fucking you, bitch. Echoes of Wisdom is a great, creative game, and you railed on it way too hard there. I give it a 9 out of 10.
Yeah, well, too bad it's my review, Jesse. I'm the cook here, not you. I give it a score of 6.5 out of 10, but I want to stretch. This is still a good score from me. Don't let IGN make you think that 7 is just okay, and everything below that is awful.
Yeah, well, listen, viewers. Don't let this bitter-ass motherfucker let you think that this game is just okay. It's amazing.
Oh, go do your own fucking review then.
Maybe I will.
Oh, why not? You already used my fucking meth recipe. You might as well use my fucking review ideas too.
All right, that's it. Say it, bitch. Say Echoes of Wisdom is a 9 out of 10.
It's not that great. It's a 6.5.
Right, fucking say it.
6.5 is a good score. I'm gonna fuck you up harder than this game's UI.